Someone who watches this channel, and you know who you are, asked me recently about my cleaning routine and if I test records on my main system. I'd mentioned that I test records after I fix them. And by fix them, I'm not talking about anything special. It's really just if I find, a piece of detritus or particle in a groove that I bring home, a used record that I bring home, I'll sometimes, pick that out with a toothpick. And I think I've done a video on that as well, the method I use to do so. In one case, I removed a little white speck of something only to find a hole in the record itself. It hadn't burned all the way through, but it almost looked like battery acid or something, or maybe somebody in the long distance past, flicked a cigarette ash and it landed on the record and burned its way through. I should show you what that looks like. Maybe I'll do that before the end of the episode. Anyway, I liked the question so much that I thought we'd take a little field trip today. Not very far, just a couple floors up into the attic office. So let's go. So here we are. We converted this attic into an office a little while back, and since then, it's undergone some changes in how we used it. For a while, it was a podcast studio where I recorded most all of my shows or edited the shows that I was hired to work on. I also did some work for Marvel for a short period of time. Now, these days, I only come up here to record the occasional podcast episode, but more often it's to clean records. So here we are. This is the so-called cleaning station as it's currently configured. Now, if you've been following this channel, you'll recognize a few things here, like this pro-ject VCE2 cleaner that I bought a few months ago. At first, it was to replace the Record Doctor 6 that sits right next to it, but it hasn't, and I'll explain why. First, I actually apply the cleaning fluid with the record on the Record Doctor. It's easier, and I can manipulate the record better. You'll see behind that I'm using pro-ject's proprietary fluid, and it works well, but I'm going back to my own fluid after this one's gone. My homemade fluid is turgitol based. Now, all records that I bring home go through this process, by the way. Even the new ones do. Depending on how dirty the record is, I'll let it sit a little bit longer, then I plop it onto the pro-ject to suck all that gunk up, and then I repeat the process for the other side. Afterwards, I put it through a distilled water wash, through the spin clean, then onto the pro-ject again, and one quick run on the Record Doctor 6 before going into an anti-static sleeve. Over here, you can see the sleeves and the covers. Now, you might be wondering why I use the Record Doctor as the final step. Well, that's because I actually think the vacuum on it is stronger than the pro-ject. When I did the comparison video a while back, I hadn't had enough time with the pro-ject VCE2 to notice it, but I did notice after, I would say 3-4 weeks, that the pro-ject leaves a little bit of fluid which the Record Doctor picks up. So why not just use the Record Doctor? Well, that's because I'm lazy. And I actually like the pro-ject's automatic feature. So I let it do its work and then a quick couple spins on the Record Doctor to clean everything up. It's not a perfect system, but it cleans records, I would say, very well. Someday I'll invest in an ultrasonic, like maybe the degritter. It's a bit too expensive for my taste right now, but yeah, we'll get there. I'd love to try it out. So that's the cleaning. Over here, I have my jeweler's loupe. I always have a hard time saying it, jeweler's loupe, to get a closer look at any particles that are wedged in the groove, and then here's a handy pile of toothpicks to dig it out with. Now, anytime I have to do this, I always put it through another clean. And afterwards, I test it out. Now, I don't go all the way downstairs to my main system. For testing and also for listening, when I'm up here, I just come over to this side of the attic office. Now, this is where some of my old equipment comes in handy. My old U-turn custom is here, ready to go. It's connected to the pro-ject tube phono stage, which I used to talk a lot about. And that's all hooked up to my trusty old Denon 600NE. I used this Denon for years before I was lured away by the warm glow of tube amps. And on either side here, you can see the Klipsch 600 Mark IIs that my KLH Model 5s replaced last year. And this all sits on this beautiful Pangea Parawood Vulcan shelf that I bought recently. Now, I love this color because you can tell it matches my U-turn orbit. It also matches the wood on my thorns, which is downstairs, which, hey, hold on one second, I'll throw up a picture. So there's something about this color that I really like. And Parawood's a very sturdy and beautiful wood from a rubber tree. I'd never heard of what a rubber tree is until I bought this. The bottom of the stand also has spiked feet to, minimize vibration. Not only is the shelf unit itself solid, but it's really aesthetically pleasing to look at. If you're in the market for a beautiful and sturdy audio rack or audio shelf unit, this one will do it. Now, I must have an affinity for Pangea products because these stands that the clips are sitting on, coincidentally, are also from Pangea Audio. I bought these stands a couple years ago, and I filled them with sand to give them a little bit more stability and, to cut down on resonance. Now, I hate getting rid of things I once loved, so I'm really actually thrilled that they found a second life up here. And it sounds actually pretty good in this room when I do play a record. What doesn't have a second life are the records that you see over here. This is the record graveyard. Now, these all have, I would say, one issue or another. Some might be a bit warped, others have scratches, or they might have surface noise because of a bad pressing, or really any number of things. And I just can't bring myself to throw them away. I probably should. I mean, they're only taking up space. So here, let me show you what I was talking about earlier with that little white speck. It was the Who's Tommy. Now, this is the one that had that mysterious hole burned into it. I'll use the USB microscope to get a better shot of it. Can you see that? Now, that's a little hole. Now, I mentioned there was a white speck over it, so that's when I said earlier about the old cigarette ash. I wasn't kidding. Maybe it was something like that that fell on it. Anyway, I bought it used, and I didn't see the speck when I looked at it at the record store, and it wasn't until I got home that I noticed it. I suppose I could have returned it, but it came from my local record shop, and I always support them first before going anywhere else, and I'd rather not return a record and have them give me my money back. So there's no way that I'd actually play this record. That hole would be like a hole in the road for my stylist to get dragged into. Ouch. All right, let's go back downstairs. So there we have it. And that was fun. Now, out of curiosity, and I'll toss this out there for you to answer, what do you do with your old components? Do you repurpose them? Do you toss them away? Do you give them to friends? Do you sell them? I'd love to hear from you. So as always, like and subscribe, and thank you for watching. And thank you for the comments and the questions as well. And until next time, please take care of yourself and enjoy your records.